and welcome back to the Future Talks conducted by Prayaana Labs. My name is Chelsea Sunil and I'll be your host for the day. Now I'm going to begin with an introduction to Prayaana. Prayaana is a unique employability, entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem for women. Prayaana Labs give wholesome career support services right from career counseling, training, mentoring and recruitment services all coming under one umbrella. So do check us out at www.prayaana.org. And in case you like what you see, please feel free to join us by registering at prayaana.in or by downloading the Prayaana app. Now, this is basically a community hub. It's a place where women can come together, post their ideas, their queries, and their thoughts with women of similar interests. The idea behind the platform was to create a space where women can get together and share their views of the world despite their geographical locations and boundaries. Now, we will be launching hubs in each of your locations so that you guys can get together, organize events, and even go on ventures together. So, don't forget to download the Prana app. It's available in your Google Play Store as well as in the Apple Store. So, it's easily downloadable. Now, this is Prayaana Collective. Prayaana Collective is a venture of Prayaana. It's unique in the idea that it's India's first e-commerce platform that is dedicated to the empowerment of women. The platform is uniquely designed with an attractive affiliate marketing model where all the customers are given an opportunity for lifetime savings and earnings. So, in case you're looking for authentic handmade products, we have plenty of those made by extremely talented women. So be sure to check us out at www.fraco.com. Now, before we go into today's session, so in case you guys have any queries during the program, please feel free to post it as a comment in the live chat box below, and we'll get back to you at the end of the session. So today's session is on the topic how to develop a culture of learning around the child. It is going to be taken by Pooja Bose. Now, she has an experience of more than 25 years of heading schools and laminating the quality deliberations, both as a leader and as an educator. She has been associated with several prestigious institutions like Delhi Public Schools, K.R. Mangalam, World Schools, and St. Xavier's Schools. She's currently the principal at the high-range school, Tata Global Beverages Limited School. She has also been committed to enhancing the quality of learning of students and teachers by holding counseling sessions and panel discussions centered around meaningful schooling. She's also been counseling parents about homeschooling, which is now a way of life. So, who better to do the session than her? A very warm welcome to the show, ma'am, and over to you.
Thank you, Chelsea. And thank you for this wonderful introduction. A very good evening to all the viewers. And I thank Future Talks for giving me this opportunity to present a talk on very pertinent subject of learning and learning, which is centered around the child. So, as we all know that learning is intrinsic when it comes to education. And we as parents and as teachers and as educators need to understand why at this important juncture of our life are we trying to talk about a very common subject of learning. The reason is very simple, that we are at a turning point in our journey of learning, and we need to reassess, re-examine, and go back to the entire process of learning as we have seen in the past and as we see it now. In the event of lockdown, as which we are going through right now, we see a lot of anxiety and stress amongst the parents, which is caused by the way children are sitting at home and learning. Some parents feel that the entire day children are glued to their devices, their electronic devices, and this is increasing their stress level, their the stress around the eyes, their vision is getting hampered, and they are unable to relax even for a short period of time, which is very valid. So we need to understand that are we actually going on the right track when it comes to learning taking place sitting at home? To start with, I will be showing you few slides and taking you through the process of learning and trying to understand what learning actually is before we actually examine whether we are learning the way we should be learning. So allow me to share a few slides with you. Uh, Here I go, I share my slides. So the first and foremost thing which we need to understand is in our minds, what is the learning process? Most of us, we think that learning is synonymous with teaching. Learning is synonymous with school. So we almost automatically uh, put the child in school thinking and hoping that that is the place, that is the portal where learning, maximum learning takes place. And learning is, for us, at least, it is equivalent to teaching. But I ask all of you to think, can learning happen without teaching also? And for that, you need to ask yourself that who teaches a child to smile? Who teaches a child to grab the toy? Who teaches a child to crawl? Most of these things happen through his own set of practices and endeavors. There is nobody around him to teach these things, yet the child learns these things. So we need to also see learning in a new light. In the late 1900s, the Delors Commission presented a report to UNESCO titled Learning a Treasure Within. And in this, they examined the entire process of education which is necessary for a 21st century learner. And in that report, there were two important values which were kept at the core of learning process. The first value was that in the 21st century, we will be having lifelong learners, which means that learning will not be limited to age or gender or profession. Learning has to be a continuous activity from childhood to adulthood and even at the old age. And as it is said that learning stops when people grow old. The fact is that when people stop learning, they grow old. So, hence, the value of lifelong learning is the centerpiece of should be the centerpiece of our education system. The next value which this report highlighted was that there are four pillars of learning, and we are going to take up one pillar at a time. The first pillar, which is called the learning to know, which is that knowledge is that which liberates, which is a value which was even highlighted in our Vedas, also called the Jnana Yoga. And in that, it says that we as learners must know how to collect information, how to collect data, and how to accumulate knowledge. However, there is a catch here that mere accumulation of data and knowledge does not lead to wisdom, does not lead to learning in actuality. In fact, a person like in that movie, Three Idiots, we had a character called Chatur. He was just an encyclopedia of facts and figures and data, but he was not a learned man because he was not able to churn that knowledge into wisdom. So, in fact, too much of knowledge and not able to transform that knowledge into meaningful activities, into value based activities, will lead to ahankar. And we have to move away from that sense of pride and ego to deeper understanding of what knowledge is all about. And that is what is wisdom. And therefore, the value of learning to know is very important and at the core of the learning process. When we come to the value called learning to do, the fact that mere knowledge is of no use unless we put it into practice, into something productive, is at the core of any education system. And we must think about Karma Yoga as equally important as the Gyan Yoga. And we have to have a linkage between our knowledge and our practical skills. And that is why the importance of practical skills was felt in our education system. And however, in our current day schools, the primary objective of education continues to remain making our children college ready rather than being ready for life outside. So if that be the only purpose, then all science students aspire to go to IITs. No doubt our IITs are one of the premium institutions, but they are academic in nature, and not every student has academic inclinations. But as parents community, as teachers, we look down upon our ITIs. We have not given the ITIs that level of respect and that level of that status in our minds. And our children also do not. They would rather go to a third grade engineering college than go to a first grade ITIs, because vocational training is, in our minds, not of much value. When Gandhiji talked about dignity of labor, it was more, we could not internalize this important skill, and it is still lacking in our lives, in our school system. However, during the lockdown, we have a golden opportunity to engage the children in practical skills at home, to make them do things with their hands, and give them simple activities to do day in and day out, so that their learning to do this value is also taken care of. The third value, which is very relevant, important, is the learning to live together. So when our forefathers spoke about Vasudev Kutumbakam, that is, the world is one family, you must understand that during that time, they did not even know how big this earth is. There was no concept of globalization. There was no concept of fast-paced information to reach out to everybody around the world. Yet, they knew what is the importance of bonhomie, what is the importance of harmony or synergy, and the magical nature of the fact that when everybody thinks together and they resonate one value and one thought, the energy which comes out, which radiates from Mother Earth, is amazing. So the value of learning to live together is very, very important. Now, how do we transform that value in our homes when we are teaching our children? We have all age groups. We have old people at home. We have different kinds of people with different nature, different personalities. And children, now that they are at home, they have to learn to accommodate and adjust with those members of the family. So this is, again, a very important and necessary value which we have an opportunity to teach our children during the lockdown. The fourth value, which is called learning to be, and which centers around asking some internal, some global questions, some existential questions, and has more of philosophical inclinations, which are very important if the mind wants to reach a higher level of upliftment. And it revolves around doing socially responsible roles, like what this organization is doing currently, and developing the potentials of other human beings, helping other people, and asking those valid central core questions like, who am I, what is my purpose of being? And then as a family, you all can discuss and talk about these relevant thoughts, that why did this lockdown happen, what was it that was going wrong in the world around us, and suddenly how this turning point on Earth has taken place and what implication or impact it is going to have in our lives. So learning to be is an equally important trait, equally important value, which around which learning should continue. Now, before we move on further, we must try to assess that the Earth, the different ages the earth was divided into, and 18th century, which was generally the agricultural age and the age of farmers, in which we weren't very rich, we weren't very affluent, and there was less of technology and globalization, but our core profession was architecture, and the entire civilizations around the earth, you will observe, were centered around riverbeds and around agriculture practices. In the 19th century, we were generally this was the age of Renaissance, the industrial age, the factories, and there were numerous workers which produced a lot of goods, and there was an explosion in terms of things. And there was a multiplicity of the same type of products being created all around the world. So this was the industrial revolution age. And then came in the 20th century the information age, in which there was a great explosion of information and data and statistics, and there was interconnection. There were connections being made between people and between systems, and there was the information, vast amount of information was being produced, and we created knowledge workers, and we created people who we valued people who had more knowledge and who had more ability to discern the knowledge and the information and data and analyze it. The current age, which is the 21st century age, is called the age of conceptual age, which is the age of creators and empathizers. And in this age, this is a magnificent age of creating new products or innovation or creating new ideas. So I'll just take you through the age, which was the age of information, where knowledge workers were trying so hard just to crack the facts and data, to the information age, to the conceptual age, which is the age of great creativity and new products and new assimilations. And in this age, the current generation should know how to be creative and how to make new things out of the old. For example, when it comes to choosing a car model, the core idea or the main function of a car is to sit. We need to travel in a car, but all of us, when we go to buy a new brand of car, we generally don't just go for the usual things. We want to see something new, something different, something which we've never seen before. So the preferences now have changed to what is mere collection of facts and data to a new product, a completely creative and magnificent and beautiful design, which we tend to admire, which we tend to connect with. The other kind of people, the other kind of value which is necessary in the conceptual age is empathy, which is the ability to see through somebody how that person is feeling and how he is how he's struggling with the current state. And empathizers are greatly valued in the conceptual age. Empathizers would always be given more preference to somebody who has less feelings or who does not really care much about the other person. That is the reason why we lay a lot of emphasis while selecting our professionals as to their how well they are in a team, whether they work together, whether they are able to collaborate, and whether they are able to join hands to create new products. So the third important value is logic and analysis. You would say that logic and analysis was the main value which was there in the information age. So why now? See, we have not forgotten the importance of uh, im- uh, uh, these two traits, which is to logically collect and analyze the data and synthesize information, because we need both the hemispheres of the brain to work in sync with each other. And therefore, we need not only to function, but we also need to create new designs. Children not only should be arguing, but also be able to tell a beautiful story that is weaving a story around their set of experiences. The idea is not only to focus, but also to create a symphony which will be music to the ears, and to create more empathy alongside logic. So both have to exist together in sync with each other. So this is the core idea behind the conceptual age. Um, then this is also the age of play and not just seriousness. So that is why you will find in many corporates there are times when people just stop their work and they move around, and they have activities which revolve around informal cooperation and exchange of ideas, and just let their hair down and be themselves, which is very very important in today's age to maximize results and to get the best out of people. So, in totality, learning cannot be just learning of head. That is what is mostly thought about, that learning is all about mind. It has to be learning with your heart and learning with your hand, and that is what makes complete education. Now, the next thing which I need to draw your attention is to the process, the steps in the learning cycle. And learning is always a cyclic process. It just doesn't happen in a minute. For true learning to take place, we need to go in a cyclic, in a circle, and complete that circle so that we internalize the learning of whatever we are aspiring to do. And the first step in that learning cycle is to procure, to acquire knowledge or ability or any particular skill. So you first need to acquire it. You need to first see how it is done. The second step is that you apply whatever you have got, you have collected, that pieces of information what you've collected, you have to apply it into your own life, you have to practice it. And then the third step is that you evaluate whatever you have learned, you try to assess it, accumulate it, and then you consider whether what you've learned is actually needed by you or not. The fourth and the final step is that you modify and adapt that piece of information and transform it into your own inner being, into your own value system, into your own needs and outputs. So, procuring, applying, considering, and transformation happens one after the other, but then it's a continuous and subtle process. It doesn't happen with gaps. You generally, once you are able to transform a particular piece of knowledge which you have acquired or a skill which you have acquired in and transform it as per your needs, then you can surely say that you've learned that particular skill, or that piece of information is learned by you. I'll give you a small example. As teachers or as parents, first, when this lockdown started, you had no idea what online teaching would look like. So you tried to procure information about how does one learn or teach online. You tried to, you know, uh, test various platforms. You experimented with probably Zoom, with Google Classroom, with Microsoft, and you tried to apply all of them, and you try to practice your online teaching or online learning through all of those mediums. And that was the stage of application when we were trying to apply that need of yours into different platforms. Then you evaluated, that is considered, which platform was useful for you, which one worked well for you, and under which condition. For example, to teach a particular topic, to teach a particular content, maybe a particular medium or platform was not good for you, but the other one was. So you were considering, evaluating, and assessing which one works better for you. And now maybe you are in a stage when you are able to modify whatever you have learned through these three steps into your actual need, and you are able to transform and transmit that knowledge to others. So that is extremely wonderful but necessary step in the learning cycle to take place. So at home, when we are teaching our children, we must ensure that not only we stop at giving them the knowledge, but we ask them to apply that knowledge into their practice. And we also ask them to consider, so we have to ask them open-ended questions, whether to test whether they are actually evaluating and assessing what they've learned. And last but not the least, you can ask them how they will transform whatever they have learned into their own projects or their own activities to do. So that is the entire learning cycle, which is also called PACT. Now, coming to the next idea, which is questioning, and which is such a wonderful thing for a learning to take place. For learning to take place, now most of us feel that learning will always happen while when we are teaching, but that is not true. If for good learning, for deeper learning and understanding to take place, we must create around the child a culture of questioning. Now, questioning has not been seen in a very good light in our school system. Teachers generally tend to snub the child who questions, saying that he is using too much of the class time in unnecessary arguments, or instead of questioning, they should listen more and then they should respond. Uh, so that is a totally wrong way of looking at the learning process. Experts say, psychologists say that the best learning takes place when the child reaches a stage of curiosity, when there is a sense of curiosity, a sense of hunger for knowledge. And that hunger will come only when they ask questions such as what, when, where, how, who, and why. The core idea of learning has to revolve around these questions, and only then, when that hunger emerges in the child and the teacher is able to satisfy that hunger of knowledge and wisdom, then true learning will take place. So always encourage the child to ask questions. In fact, let all the learnings begin with questioning. That is how questioning should be looked at, with much respect, and should be given a lot of emphasis in the learning process. The other important aspect is modeling or mirroring the behavior. We generally do a lot of preaching in the house and think that when we preach and we teach them good values, the children will learn them. But what we do forget is that the child also learns majorly by observation. And they don't do what we ask them to do, they do what we do. So remember that unless you model that behavior in the house, in the home situations, your children will never really trust what you are saying. You may take an example of the current situations. I've seen that many parents would expect the child to get up on time and get ready, brush teeth, and then sit for the online class, but they themselves will continue to be in their night dress till 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and they will expect the child to get ready, get dressed, and do the morning chores early in the morning. But what the child sees around him are adults who are themselves not properly dressed for the given hour or given time. So this is a dichotomy. There's a conflict in what you are preaching and what you are doing, and that should not ever happen. So understand that kids don't learn when they are just consuming information. The second point here is that always have a dignified environment around the child. So when children ask questions, you generally snub them or you put them down, and then the child feels threatened. The child does not feel very comfortable. So remember that you have to encourage the child to ask questions, you have to model that behavior, and also that you have to also give them that sense of dignity and respect while learning. So it is said that best learning will happen when you do not talk down to the child and do not treat the child as ignorant by saying that you are a fool, you don't know anything, you are a slow learner. Such derogatory terms should not be used. The second important point is that learning opportunity should, whenever possible, be linked to a previous positive experience. So, here the important thing to note is previous positive experience, which means that if your past experience for a given thing has been positive, the child would like to learn more about it. I'll give you my personal example. In my early school days, I had a very strict mathematics teacher, and it was always very difficult for me to ask any doubt in the class because I was always made to feel by her that I don't know anything, that I'm always behind in my class when it comes to knowing mathematics. So for me, mathematics had become a connect for negative experiences, for scary experiences. And throughout my school life, math as a subject was always something which I was scared of. I never could be comfortable to. I took mathematics till my 12th standard, yet mathematics was a subject which I was most uncomfortable in doing and being examined. So that was because my previous experience of math was very negative and scary and uncomfortable. When possible, learners should take part in the planning of learning activity. Now, this is another very interesting thing which we always tend to ignore. See, the learners will feel when you give them the ownership of learning, then the learners will feel more participative in the learning process. So the teachers must try as much as possible to allow the children to decide what they are going to learn today. You can give them simple choices like, shall we take up chapter 7 before or chapter 8 before? Or would you like to do the exercise today, or would you like to take up the other topic today? These simple choices will make them participate and be take ownership of their learning journey. And anyway, with the online teaching and learning, you must try to understand that gone are those days that learning was directed by the teacher. Now the students can direct their learning very easily. Now the students can decide whether they want to learn or not and how much. Having said that, learning will always be best when you give them positive experiences. It is not that in school the children could not decide that. We have cases of children who would just switch off in a live classroom, who would just refuse to participate in a class discussion. So learning is always very internal. If like you say, you can take the horse to the well but you can't make the horse drink. Same way it is for learning also. You can't ensure learning unless the child is willing to learn. People learn best when their physical environment is comfortable. So try to give the child a comfortable environment away from distractions. Try to make him sit or her sit in a place which is comfortable and where the light is good, and where keeps getting water, and the chair is comfortable. The same rules which apply in school also apply at home. Interaction with the facilitator. That facilitator could be the teacher, that facilitator could be the parent. The facilitator's interaction with the child is vital for good learning to happen. Otherwise, if you leave the child to his own devices, there are possibilities of distractions happening. More so in online teaching, where children tend to get distracted towards social media very easily, and it is a very consuming experience to learn online. So therefore we need to have the facilitator intervening time and again, ensuring that the child is on the right track when it comes to learning a particular topic. And giving rewards also help. Rewards are not bribery, but rewards are, simple, a pat on the back or a word of appreciation for what the child has done. And it should be immediate. It should be immediate. The moment child has given an input or responded well, give instant reward in terms of words of appreciation, and that would go a long way. Dear parents and audience, PISA is a program for international student assessment, and this exam was conducted on 15-year-old, and it is an international exam, and there is a metric system all across the globe. The countries have agreed to put their children on this assessment system, and this test was conducted according to the reports. Over 500,000 students representing 72 countries appeared in a 2-hour test in 2015. The test was conducted around 4 subjects: mathematics, reading, financial literacy, and science. And PISA the results of PISA are known to have an impact on the way education is practiced in several countries. Now, our country has, for your information, never participated except once in the year 2009. And this is where our education system was assessed to be ranked. And our students, there were 2 states, Tamil Nadu and Himachal, which participated in PISA from the government side only. They chose these 2 states, and the students fared so poorly that we ranked 72nd out of 74 participating countries. And why this happened was very simply because our education system concentrates more on rote learning and less on analytical skills and creative skills. And that is the skill of a 21st century learner, which PISA assesses. And worldwide, these are the skills which are needed for the children to be ready for the life outside. And these skills are still undermined, ignored in our education system to a very large extent. So this is the reality. And let me also tell you that our government has agreed for the Indian students to participate in PISA in the year 2021. So we're looking forward to how we fare now in the coming years in terms of our educational standards. Now, few things when at home, what we can do to ensure learning takes place. These are some practical things which I'm going to talk to you about. You can start a day with a question or a problem to solve. Children love challenges. For example, why do ants or cockroaches come out only during summers and not in winters? Which is learning to know. Let us investigate, let us find out, let us try to know. We can also teach them practical skills that how to make cheese out of milk, cleaning of cupboards, space management, folding of clothes, etc. Just learning to do. How will you ensure that grandparents will come and sit comfortably in the garden outside in the evening? Learning to live together, be in harmony with people around us, and reciting a verse from an epic, scriptures, and starting a discussion around that topic while we are sitting in the garden would be a great idea about learning to be. So, like a father said to his son, be careful where you walk. The son responded, you be careful, I walk on your footsteps. So now I have this ad to tell you how children learn by observation. One of the key things which I've been talking about is you have to model your talk. You have to walk the talk yourself to ensure that children follow your footprints. Have a look.
अरे इतनी जल्दी उठ गई जा ब्रश कर Beta, you have to finish your breakfast. Very nice. Finish this, okay? Toast.
थैंक यू।
क्या बनाया?
मेरे स्विमिंग पूल से।
मेरा भी तो बड़ा है।
ओह हाँ, आपकी कितनी फ्लोर की है? 1 2
डिनर फिनिश, स्टोरी टाइम।
कौन सी स्टोरी सुनोगी आज?
इसकी फेवरेट बर्फ वाली.
बर्फ वाली।
The cobbler made shoes. The
मम्मी पापा
निधि
So this is something which we understand that children learn a lot by observation, and gender stereotypes are a very strong example of what sons and daughters learn, what they see in their household happening. So there's a common, you must have heard about this, that children learn what they live. If the child lives with criticism, they learn to condemn. If children live with hostility, they learn to fight. So on. If children live with tolerance, they learn patience. And whatever they live with, the values they demonstrate themselves in their future lives. I would like to share a beautiful poem of Khalil Gibran with you. And this poem has everything to do with, I would say, parenting, a lot to do with parenting. Excuse me. Which says that your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they do not belong to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. See, very important. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. For they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backwards, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are set forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bendings in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. So dear parents, do not try to remote control or monitor or over control your child. Give them the freedom, the space to expand, to create, to have their own expressions. And only then will they succeed as individuals. And individuality and uniqueness is going to be the most important trait of the 21st century. Do not try to make them Xerox copy of another child. They never will be. And in the end, they will only develop more bitterness towards parenting. So avoid that. So give them the ability to blossom, as in the tree, in the seed truly is the tree. So in the child is the promise of a great individual, of a genius, of a great person, provided you let the child blossom and do what he or she really wants to do and really likes to do and really enjoys doing. Some of the conclusions: a lot of learning can take place without undergoing the classroom experience also. Like I just said, that you can do all of that at home. Do not create stress for it, will hamper. So every day you will not have the same kind of learning happening. Some days will be better than the others. So it's all right. Let the child take the steering wheel of his learning in his own hands, at least at home. Do not trust every information which comes to you. Learn to filter. Things which are coming on WhatsApp or which are coming on the web are not always authentic. Help children to think creatively and differently. Help them search for relevant information and analyze it, something very, very important which they must learn to do right from the young age. This is not something which happens only when the children reach the higher education. It can even happen when children are very young. So give them those thinking skills. And values have to be developed at home. Home is the major place where values happen. School is the place where social learning happens, but home is the place where values happen. So this was in totality a few thoughts which I wanted to share with you about learning. And now I would really like if you all can give some questions or feedback about it.
Okay, ma'am. Hi, ma'am. It was a really good session. So, initially when you asked me, like, who are the audience mostly going to be? Are they going to be parents or teachers? Well, I seem to have made a mistake on my assumption. It's mostly teachers, and we have a lot of questions. So the first question is, how do you actually control the behavior during an online class? What if a student falls asleep? What if a student misbehaves? How do you moderate the class?
Yes, so you don't have to control the behavior, but you have to ensure that the child is inclined towards behaving in a particular manner. So, like I said, that if the child comes and sits in front of a screen with his night suit on, obviously he will not have a mindset of learning. For example, if I have to give a presentation, I will be dressed formally. Something happens to our brain when we wear the right kind of shoes and right kind of clothing, and we are dressed right. The brain automatically gets attuned to a particular learning process. Same way with the children, if they are dressed properly, if they're brushed and their body is clean and their hair is combed and they are wearing even shoes, even though it's not visible, yet the brain will get conditioned to learning, because that's how they have been conditioned since their childhood, that they dress up to go to school. So they should dress up and sit in front of the screens, and then automatically they'll be attuned to the learning process.
Okay, ma'am. So the next question is, can you share any teaching methods which we teachers can include in online sessions?
I can share many methods, but each subject demands its own type of methodology of teaching. And online, you must remember that you can't give a 40-minute class. You have to have shorter sessions with the children. Online teaching is not equivalent to classroom teaching. In fact, I believe that 3 sessions online will be equal to 1 session face-to-face in a classroom. The reason is very simple, that the child gets distracted very easily. The concentration span of a child on the screen is limited as compared to the one which is there in the classroom. And in at home, the child is learning alone vis-a-vis in the class where 40 students or 30 students are sitting together. So have shorter sessions, have more interactive sessions, and use a lot of visuals and audio inputs while teaching.
Okay, ma'am. So the next question is from Manisha Jain. So what she's asking us, in your presentation you spoke about logic and analysis. Can you please elaborate on focus?
See, our brain got two hemispheres, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. So logic and analysis is generally, in the left hemisphere of the brain, we generally find the traits of logic and analysis. Now, focusing on logic and analysis is also important. It's a necessary trait. But not everybody has got an analytical mindset. We need to understand. Some will have it more than the other, and some will be very logical and analytical. But the idea is to develop this trait, to practice it, and then leave it for the child to consume it as much as the child wants. So logic, analysis, and focus, all of these three things are intrinsic to the learning process, but they are not the only things. There are a whole lot of other things which we need to look into.
Okay. So now we have the last question. This question is from RC Menon. So he says, "Hello Pooja ma'am, I am Ram. My hobby is to promote value education through real-time experience. I would like to know how to make students confident who are anxious and curious on reopening schools."
I know students are thinking about school reopening. In fact, I'll share with you that we had an online quiz in our school, and I asked the students one question: what is that one thing you are missing most about the school? And all of them said, we miss our friends. And the second, the biggest vote went for friends, and the second vote went for teachers. So I feel that what homeschooling cannot give to the child, home learning cannot give to the child, is the social value which schools offer. So the fact that when children travel in the bus, the chuckles, the laughter, the fun, the frolic, which happens when they come and sit in the bus, nothing can replace that experience for the child. And the classroom experience, and for a child, if you look at all the school from the child's perspective, the child is not really looking forward to the classroom teaching which is happening. What he's looking forward is that recess time, or the ground when the children go out and have fun in the ground during PT, or the dance class, or the music or the art class, or the fun they have in the laboratories. All of those things are moments which children look forward to. And I think the social element is what is causing more trouble to the child, more anxiety to the child than anything else. So children are looking forward to the school reopening because they are missing all of that. They are so confined to their home. And I think the children would understand how boring it is to sit in front of the screen and just keep learning. You cannot really physically, the value of touch, as they say, the holding of hands and running and jumping around, that is completely missing in the child's life today. And so the children are really, really looking forward to that valuable experience, that moment when the school will open and they'll do all of that again.
Okay, ma'am. And that was our last question. And with that, we're going to come to an end to today's session. Now we're going to go to the feedback session. So we've already received a lot of feedback, and all the questions you've answered, they've really thanked you. Thank you, and everybody's mentioned that it's been a very motivating session. It's been inspiring, and it's been a very, very informative session. So thank you so much for that. So if you guys have any other feedback, any critical feedback which you would like to give us, so that we can work on our session and make it, improve it, so that it becomes a more better experience for you next time around, please feel free to post it as a comment in the YouTube channel, and we'll definitely check it out. So now this is a poster for tomorrow's session. It will also be from 8 to 9 p.m. It's going to be taken by Vinod Sridharan, who is the founder and CEO of iGen Innovations. He's going to be taking a session on the topic how to enable and increase people productivity virtually post the COVID. So, and this is just timetable for the coming week. So for Friday, I've already mentioned the session is going to be the topic how to enable and increase people productivity virtually post COVID. And on Saturday, we're going to have a session by Mr. Krishna Kumar, who's the CEO of Green Pepper. He's going to take a session on the topic how to start your own gig. So with that, we're coming to an end to today's session, and now I'm going to make a call for interns. So we have an opening for interns. It will be work from home. It's mostly on digital marketing. So if you guys have a craze for digital marketing, you guys will the intern will probably be handling your our various social media account and will basically manage the community hub and manage various events which we're planning ahead. So if you're interested in the same, please feel free to drop your resume at joinprayana@gmail.com. It's available here. And if you have any queries, please feel free to contact the following number 8590339393. Just take the number down, and if you have any queries, please feel to contact that number. And with that, we're coming to an end to today's session. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, ma'am, for coming on to the show once again. And yeah.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, Future Talk. And I want to tell one last thing to all our viewers, which is to continue the process of learning wherever you are and let your children be themselves. That is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And guys, don't forget to subscribe to us. Subscribe, like, and share. And with that, we're coming to an end to today's session. And see you guys tomorrow. Stay home, stay safe.
Thank you. Is it over?
Yes.
So how was it?